In the summer of 2016, bizarre gameplay footage for Resident Evil 7 was revealed that made the game look like it was gonna feature some kind of paranormal shit instead of biological monsters. Also, for some reason, the game was shown to be in first person, and it was more of a found footage type of horror game than anything else. So we, the FUgameCrue, while skeptical, were still intrigued and decided to give the game a shot. Shane, Cameron, and for some reason the STARS Alpha Team actors from Resident Evil 1 walked to Funko Land to buy a copy since their channel isn't big enough to get one for free 2 weeks before everybody else. Then they got lazy and didn't feel like walking back, so Shane called his dad to give them a ride in his helicopter. Just go with it. On their way to meet Shane's father in the middle of nowhere, they discovered a computer screen displaying an odd message on the monitor. Soon they discovered why. Let's run for that house! What the heck happened out there? And where are we? I don't know, but we need to get out of here fast! We also still need to make a Should You Buy It video for Resident Evil 7 as soon as possible. All of the bigger channels already have videos out. Alright, I'll fight all of the monsters then and find a way out. You go over there, use that TV, and find out whether or not this game is worth buying. Alright, as I've already said, I'm skeptical about this game based on the 20-minute demo from last summer. It wasn't long enough to decide whether or not I liked it since we couldn't even fight any enemies. But I was worried they'd try to mimic other popular horror franchises as opposed to staying true to their roots. It seemed like Capcom new action stuff wasn't flying anymore, and while I think Resident Evil 6 was fun, it wasn't really a horror game. But I can say that RE6 was at least going more in the general direction of a true horror game than Resident Evil 5 was. Why did everybody love 5 but hate 6 so much? 5 wasn't the least bit scary, and 6 at least had zombies and that Hoobastank monster chasing you around. I honestly haven't read any other reviews since I didn't want my opinion to be subconsciously swayed one way or another based on the general consensus for the game. I didn't want to do what pretty much every other reviewer did with Skyward Sword. Remember when everybody gave it 10s and now nobody will even admit that they liked it? Well, I'm not going to do that here, even if my opinion is unpopular and it makes everybody want to shove their pinky so far up my ass that it touches a nugget of my shit. I mean, one can only get their pinky so far up somebody's ass before it becomes fisting. Sorry. Let's just get started with an open mind and low expectations. The game starts off with the main character, Ethan, who's simply looking for his wife who he hasn't seen in 3 years. He then gets a creepy email from her that reveals her location and simply says, "Come get me." As odd as this is, a desperate Ethan decides to follow his only lead. So then the gameplay begins and starts you off at the farm where Mia's been all this time. And this is where you find yourself in a bit of a pickle with a weird redneck parasitic cult-like family who've been experimenting on various people, including Mia, who now has superhuman powers as well as a tendency to become aggressive and demon-like. And it's up to you to find a cure and get her the HE triple hockey sticks out of there. Without diving into any spoilers, that's pretty much the gist of the game. My first impressions with this are surprisingly very positive. It hits the ball right out of the park, drawing you in and getting you hooked. Unlike the previous 3 games, this one's actually very frightening. That's right, I said 3 games. As good as Resident Evil 4 was, scary it was not. I've never been more frightened than I was playing Resident Evil 0 through 3 and Code Veronica. Sure, it had a lot to do with the fact that I was 9 years old for some of those games and didn't have a memory card, but it was still terrifying. I'm not as scared of this game as I used to be because now I'm older, don't have to deal with tank controls, fixed camera angles, and I'm more skilled than I used to be, even though I still die a lot. I mean, this game's friggin' harder than me when I read King of the Hill fanfics, am I right? I'm just kidding. This game's not that hard. There's 2 ways this game could have been scarier though, and the first would be if there were actually consequences when you die. When you get killed, all you have to do is start back at the latest checkpoint. And you have unlimited saves, so if you die, you don't really feel like you've lost all that much. Meaning you have nothing to lose, and it's hard to be scared with that kind of mentality, even though the game is fairly difficult. But my other suggestion to make this game scarier would have been to have the characters actually be afraid. How am I supposed to care if I die if the guy's life I'm controlling doesn't even care? Ethan pretty much no-sells everything that happens. Even when his long-lost wife of 3 years, Mia, temporarily turns into a monster and he stabs her in the neck with an axe, having no reason to believe she's still alive, he has a demeanor that says everything except, "Oh my god, my wife married an axe murderer."
That's not funny.
It just sucks me right out of the game when Ethan expresses indifference. It's not even bad voice acting, he just doesn't seem very affected or even all that concerned with all the shit that keeps happening around him. He'll drop the occasional F-bomb here and there, but those are more out of frustration than fear or true anger.
Sorry, buddy.
The kinds of reactions you get out of Ethan are the same ones you'd have when you stub your toe or pour a bowl of cereal only to realize you forgot to buy bull milk at Kmart. I understand why they wouldn't want us playing as a protagonist who acts like a bitch, but this is just too much. To be fair though, the old Resident Evil games' characters handled scary situations in the same and different fashion, but the voice acting was atrocious then, so it just kinda came with the territory.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
You're right.
Despite those 2 criticisms, this game is still a spooky affair. And I'm not even talking about cheap jump scares. Yeah, that's still here, but it's only done in moderation to keep you on your toes, and it's never relied upon. The rest of the game has you walking around feeling uneasy. Seeing one of the owners standing across a new room you enter with their backs turned and not having noticed you can be just as scary as them popping up out of nowhere and scaring you. Sometimes I felt like this game tried slightly too hard to be creepy and gory, but I'd rather have it try too hard than not enough. In fact, there's plenty of memorable moments, and nothing about this game feels run-of-the-mill. At first, I didn't want to give this credit as a Resident Evil game since the only connection it has to the rest of the series are the herbs. But the more I played it, the more I kept thinking, what really makes a Resident Evil game? I know it's a little different since the first 8 Resident Evil games are all connected and the gameplay slowly evolves over time, but just think of this as the Halloween 3 of the series, except it's actually good. In Resident Evil 4, things did change drastically, but it was still part of the same overall story. My worries of this game being a cheap attempt at emulating other corny jump scare horror franchises were all for naught. And I actually prefer playing as new characters who are new to all this spooky tomfoolery as opposed to trained professionals who are used to it. Maybe they should have rebooted the series entirely or at least called this game something different, but who are we to judge anybody for giving something a misleading name? Besides, a name like Resident Evil is much more fitting for a game all about evil residents than some of the other games in the franchise. And there is still a Biohazard going on, so they aren't even lying with the Japanese title. My biggest concern was that there'd be spooky ghosts, which they've tried before in the original Resident Evil 4 demo, but thankfully the hazards remain biological. If Capcom has such a bon yet for spooky ghosts, then why don't they start a new series? Much like Resident Evil 4, this is a great fresh new look at the series that everybody's been waiting for. So if you're a fan of horror games and can play this without shitting the bed, then you should definitely buy Resident Evil 7. Now that I'm finished with this, I'd better go check on my friend Shane. Hopefully he didn't die a slow, horrible death. So like this video and do all of that, you don't care. I'm going to go get Shane. Wow, I'm really glad there's no such thing as monsters in real life. If they existed, they'd probably attack me since this is the end of the video.